if we were to go back and consider the story that was given by Candace Wells, her rendition, her story of what happened that day, if we were to take that as to be true and to look at that more closely and to follow along with things as she says, she was right in front of her mother's trailer when she helped put on the knee brace. They weren't inside the trailer. They were, in fact, right in front of the trailer on a step, and that is where she helped her mother for 2 to 3 minutes. If we consider this whole scenario here, what it means is either someone was there at the house before they arrived, either hiding in the basement or hiding in the woods and watching them, because the first thing they did was, and we all know the story, is that they put away the groceries. Candace said that the boys came out and that they helped to take out the groceries, and that they first helped with her mother to put her stuff away, and then they put away the stuff for Candace and the boys. After that, she helped her mom to plant some flowers. Now that is the story. If we are to go along with the idea that there is an abductor, that there is someone who actually came on that property and took Summer, then does that mean that someone was there while they were planting flowers? Or is it that somebody snuck on during that time? After that, Summer then went with her mother back to the home. As we know, that Candace says that she walked Summer to the front door. She watched her walk in. After that is when Candace went back for 2 to only 3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes. This is the time frame, and within that 2 to 3 minutes, that is when Summer is lost, or pretty well vanishes. It would be different if, let's say it was half an hour, but she's not saying that. She's not saying that she didn't see Summer for half an hour. She's saying that she didn't see Summer for 2 or 3 minutes. And that is the time that she was outside of her mother's trailer, in the front there, and that is when Summer disappeared. I'm guessing that that would mean that Summer didn't spend much time with her brothers. So if she went in and was there with her brothers for example, 1 minute, and after that decided that she would go down and play, then that would be another minute. Does that mean that somebody was in the basement? I'm thinking that if someone was in the basement, the sound would most likely have been heard. Since the boys are right there, right above, any kind of a struggle, any kind of a noise, the sound of someone kicking or the door slamming, that would have been heard within the home, or heard by Candace upon her return. 2 to 3 minutes within that distance she would hear, unless she was, let's say, further away. If she was farther, then she might not have heard. But how is it possible that Candace didn't hear what happened to Summer when she was only about, let's say, 30, maybe 40 feet away from the house? That is the thing that makes this very tight and very hard to understand how it's possible. But she has insisted on that time frame, and that is why we have to keep looking at that 2 to 3 minutes. Now, when she was asked about Summer, if Summer maybe had walked away and then perhaps came across someone afterwards, Candace insists that no, Summer wouldn't leave the property, that Summer wouldn't leave the swing, that she was always right there. And so that kind of throws that possibility out as well. And she herself is not allowing for that, for us to expand upon that. Now, as far as the idea that maybe Summer, let's say, went off, that she walked away, that she was looking around and maybe took a little walk on their property, walked along a path. Now, the thing is that Candace says that that is not possible. She says that no, Summer would not do that Summer would not walk off, that Summer's habit was basically to stay there by the swing, and that she just wouldn't leave. She wouldn't leave the property, and she wouldn't explore that way. So that kind of limits things even further. And I kind of wonder, why is it? Why is it that Candace is insisting that Summer would not walk around, that she wouldn't walk, let's say, a little bit further along in the property and just maybe exploring a little bit? But no, she is insisting that Summer wouldn't do that. So, and it kind of contradicts with the whole idea. A lot of people think that the parents are not being truthful, and it makes me wonder why. Why is she insisting that Summer would not walk off, that Summer would not explore? Why does Candace keep insisting that that is not possible? So she's insisting upon the 2 to 3 minutes, and she's insisting that Summer would not walk off on her own. That is conflicting with the opinion that I have, and it's kind of conflicting with the whole idea that if the parents, if Candace and Dawn, if they are lying, if they are trying to deceive people, then why are they insisting that Summer would not leave the property? Why are they insisting that it's only 2 to 3 minutes? Because they're kind of trapping themselves. And it would have been so much easier if they were going to lie. They could have said that, yes, Summer did, at times she would explore, and that she would maybe walk around there, that it had happened before. Candace could have said that, in fact, it was more than 2 minutes. She could have said that she was busy. She'd gotten busy doing the laundry, for example, and that she hadn't noticed Summer for maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes. And in that case, that would be a much bigger window of opportunity where Summer could have possibly gone missing, and that would make a lot more sense. So again, with her way that she's putting this story, that it was only 2 to 3 minutes, it makes it very difficult to believe or to see how it could happen. But we have to remember that nothing is impossible. And even though some of the experts have said, well, it's not likely that somebody would come up to that property, it's not likely that somebody would go into the house, it's not likely that it can happen in 2 to 3 minutes, but at the same time, it is possible. It is possible that it could happen. It's just very difficult to understand how, and that it's probably not, let's say it's not a probability. But at the same time, we have to consider that, yes, in fact, there are other people there. There was 3 people in the house. Those 3 brothers, they would have heard something. But then again, they were playing their game on the television. Maybe the television was quite loud. Maybe they were wearing headphones and playing, who knows. Could have been, let's say, listening to each other and shouting, and there could have been quite a bit of excitement while they played their game. We don't know that, but that could have been a distraction, and for that reason they might not have heard what was going on with Summer. That is regarding any scenario, regardless of whether it's an abduction or whether there's been some misleading stories told. They simply might not know what happened. But the thing is that as years go on, one of those boys might want to come out and might be curious to know what happened to their sister, and they themselves might want to help out to find her. So that will be yet to be seen. So I did read something interesting in one of the news articles, and actually Donald Wells was asked about Candace's reaction when the infamous cornbread mafia was mentioned. But basically he stuck to the idea, and he insisted that his daughter was abducted. Okay, so he said, "I know in my heart and in my mind she was abducted," he said, and as it was revealed, Summer's parents had passed a polygraph test. Now, when I heard that, I was very surprised. And I know they say that those tests are not 100%. They say that it's more psychological. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I'm surprised that they could pass the test, but possibly they were able to remain calm. I did find that Candace was very cold, that she had kind of a frozen expression. During the show, for the Dr. Phil show, she didn't show much emotion for most of it. She didn't talk much, and it was kind of just like a blank stare, looked like some resentment and maybe some suspicion towards things that Dr. Phil was telling her. Now, the quote in this article, it says that someone snuck up there and we were not exactly paying attention. Then it says, and we don't know if they came in the basement and grabbed her, or if she stepped outside the basement and was walking to her swing or something. That is basically, it's very difficult to imagine that could happen. And that is what we've all been talking about this whole time. But there has been so much suspicion on these parents, their behavior, and yet at the same time I'm seeing a lot of people that are commenting and actually feel that Candace and Dawn are innocent. There's a lot of people that are upset about the comments, the suspicion that's on them, and regardless of, let's say, the behavior that they've had, the drug use, and all of that stuff, people are still wanting to give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, as far as this group, historically, the name, that cornbread mafia, was used for a group of men in Kentucky who created the largest domestic marijuana production operation in U.S. history. Don was quick to insist he'd heard of such activity in his area, but neither he nor his family had ties to it during their explosive Dr. Phil debut. "We don't associate or socialize with them," he said, adding that the couple tries to keep their children completely away from potential criminal activity. Okay, so they try to keep the kids away from it. But Dr. Phil's question caused Candace to storm off saying, "Get these wires off of me." So then Candace her reaction was that she was being interrogated. Now, guys, I watched it, and I'm sure a lot of you watched it and saw the clip. And did any of you see anything that made it seem like Candace was being interrogated? Because it seemed to me that Dr. Phil was being very kind to them. He was trying to ingratiate himself. He was trying to be understanding. The way he was talking, he was taking her side and trying to keep, the communication open with her, with Dawn. And I didn't see it as an interrogation at all. But I guess Candace felt like she was being, maybe attacked or questioned too much in a difficult way, I suppose. But that does seem odd. Now, as far as the sheriff, the Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson, he revealed that authorities are still checking into people that Summer's parents associated with, but had seen no evidence she had been kidnapped. Lawson had not heard of the Cornbread Mafia, marijuana traffickers operating in the area where Summer vanished, but the sheriff added that everybody that is involved in this case is a person of interest, and no one was ruled out yet. The term the Cornbread Mafia was used first by federal prosecutors in June of 1989. More than 70 men were arrested for organizing a marijuana trafficking ring that had 30 farms in 10 states. The organization could possibly exist in Tennessee, says Eric Stanton, the assistant professor of criminal justice and behavior and social studies at Northeast State Community College. And Stanton claims they could be involved in Summer's disappearance if her family crossed their path. I think it's more of a code of silence versus an actual organized operation, he said. You have to look at what they are doing, what the organization's prime mission is, and whether or not Summerwells and her family became intertwined, got in their way, things of that nature that would cause something like this to happen. Dawn and Candace have been asked if they know anyone that might have been involved with Summer's disappearance. In the interview with News Nation, Dawn mentioned that his wife had chosen the wrong friends in the past. Okay, but he doesn't. That is the funny thing about Dawn. So he's saying that his wife chose the wrong friends, but what about he himself? Has he chosen good friends? Or can he not mention himself that maybe he chose the wrong friends? But he then described Candace as a good mother who loves her children. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe she was in with some wrong friends, but it happens, Summer's dad said. The day before Summer went missing, Dawn had reportedly fired a man from his job after he showed up high on drugs. I can prove it, he claimed. I fired him, and the very next day my daughter disappeared. Dawn alleged that the man has spoken to the police and proved an alibi. Now, it was kind of odd, the reaction of Dr. Phil and the other two guys from the behavior panel, and specifically the guy, his name is Hartley. He said, I don't think either one of them killed or injured Summer, but they do think that Candace knows something. The two experts on the show, Scott Rouse and Greg Hartley, said that they don't believe Summer's parents hurt their daughter, but Candace's strange behavior did raise questions. He added, Candace, if you don't have guilty knowledge, if you know anything, this is your chance because you show signs that you're hiding something. Now, when they were talking about that, basically they were saying that she's innocent, but that she has some kind of knowledge of something which might even be subconscious. And I wasn't buying what they were saying. I was thinking that they were trying to gain her confidence, and it really didn't make much sense. So if they would give an example of what they're trying to say. But now Rouse added, the reason we think you're hiding something is that every time we mention the Cornbread Mafia, which you don't know about, that tears you up. You emotionally fall apart. We see the signs of stress. Now, the other thing is that I noticed that with that show that there's a lot of editing. And I guess you guys are aware of that they do cut up the interview quite a bit. Now, I was surprised that, and especially afterwards, that they were able to get 2 days worth of shows from that bit of interview that they did. So that's 2 hours, and there wasn't much new. I mean, other than that whole situation with the Cornbread Mafia, they didn't discover anything. They didn't get anything out of Candace. And Dawn basically continued on. He remained cool. But, they didn't basically they didn't wear out Candace, and they basically just told her that they think that she's innocent, and they think that she knows something, but what would she know? Are they trying to set up a scenario where they make her feel like she is more of a victim, and that giving her a chance to opt out for something less, that is one of the techniques that they use to make, let's say, a perpetrator feel that they are going to come out looking better, and they will give them a scenario where the person has a reason, like an excuse for what they did. And so that way the person will confess. And so maybe that was the whole tactic, is that, and they did that with another example with Chris Watts. They wanted to give him a reason, an excuse so that he would admit to what he had done. And I suppose that is what they were trying to do with Candace, to be understanding with her and hoping that she would break down. But I mean, who is going to, on national television, who's going to break down in front of cameras? That is ridiculous. So, and it was kind of a letdown because, like I said, we had to watch the show for 2 days. So day number 1 was a whole hour, and I'm guessing it was about, I'm not exaggerating, I think it was about maybe half an hour of commercials and maybe a half an hour of the actual show. And there was a lot of repeating. They would repeat the little bits, and then they would show us a little bit more after the commercial. And then the next day, we had to tune in again for another hour, and it was kind of the same thing. But now the thing is that you can tell that Don seems more comfortable, and he is able to continue on talking, and he kind of just, how can I say, he not stumbles along, but he's able to kind of twist things around and veer off into his own little direction, and kind of just steer things away from being factual and telling a story, for example. But Candace is more direct. I guess she kind of sticks to basics. And that is what Candace did when she had her interview with the interview room with Chris McDonough, when the two of them were over there at Warrior State Park, right in front of the water there. And Candace started to tell the story about what happened, and she seemed very direct. She seemed very straightforward, and she doesn't really, that was the most that she opened up. That was, the most that she was elaborating at that time, but she doesn't tend to go on with things the way that Dawn does. Even when she was asked about Allison, she kind of cuts things short. She doesn't give extra information. So I guess that is their style of talking. But what does that mean? I've heard before that it's said that where there's smoke, there's fire. Or when you see, let's say, the amount of effort that we see Don with his nonstop talking, is that, is he trying to dig himself out because he has, let's say, the most to lose? And Candace is, she's obviously upset, but she will tend to stay quiet. So what does that psychologically, what does that show us? Just looking without really listening to the specifics, wouldn't that imply that it is Dawn who is backpedaling? That maybe Candace knows something and that she's upset about it and that she can't say much about it. But Dawn, on the other hand, he's not questioning her, and he is more trying to, let's say, dig out of the situation and keep himself safe. And Candace wants to basically just take a step back, and she wants to keep away. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. For me, I mean, I can see a lot of suspicious things with both of them. And then again, at the same time, as I mentioned before, when we see the case of some other missing children, at times it does seem suspicious. At times, but the parents, you're able to separate the parents who seem to be innocent, when they're not shady, when they're not contradicting, when the story is straightforward. But then there was that case this summer with Cash Gernon, and that family also had a lot of hate towards them, even though the cameras were there to show that someone had entered their home. So it happened to them, but that was at night and then once again in the morning. But that in fact did happen. And so for that reason, there's always that chance that this could be a case where it happened here as well. It could be. So it's not impossible, even though about 70% of people from the polls that I've put up, that people are answering the questions, and it looks like, again, like 70% seem to think that they are guilty, that they do know something, that they are involved. And so there is another 30% which either is undecided or does believe that she was abducted. So now, what do you guys make of the CPS reports? We heard that CPS was scheduled to be there that day. And now, were they? Did CPS show up? When were they going to show up? We heard about this from Allison. And supposedly, the information that I'd come across was that the mother had called on them, had reported them. And so I don't know who else would have reported them. But so did they actually make a call to the house? What time were they supposed to be there? Did it happen that they showed up and that Summer and Candace and Grandma weren't there? Did they show up after? What exactly was going to happen? And if they didn't show up, why not? Would they have made a phone call? What I heard is that they don't call, is that they just kind of show up. Was it going to be maybe within that week that they were scheduled to be there at some day of that week? Then again, that goes with the idea that Don was worried that he would face some more charges if something was found which CPS would, let's say, report, and that he just couldn't afford to get any more charges because he would end up in prison. So people tend to think that this whole thing has a lot to do with that. But in that case, Summer could have gone with her grandmother. Her grandmother could have been responsible for her, and they could have protected her in that way so that Summer wouldn't be taken. One thing I don't understand is, why is it that the grandmother hasn't come out? She hasn't been on any of the media news channels. She hasn't done any interviews. And I mean, she was there. Why aren't the media outlets finding her, tracking her down, and getting her side of the story? Why didn't the Dr. Phil show bother to contact her and to have her on the show? Or if that was not possible, why didn't the Dr. Phil show, let's say, do a separate interview with her, or just get her take on the situation? Why haven't any of the other major news outlets gotten a hold of the grandmother? It does seem very odd when you see a case like that. Any other major case, you're going to see that. You're going to hear from the husband, you're going to hear from brothers and sisters, from the in-laws, of course, from a grandmother, especially because, like I said, because she was actually living there. And she left. She left very soon. And from what I understand, that is her home. The trailer is her home, and she doesn't want to lose that. So why is it like as if she doesn't exist? It's almost like, I have never heard her voice. So it's, and the thing is that people are wondering about the voice that is heard from someone who is sitting in the passenger side when we see Summer in the back seat in that quick little video. There is a voice that responds to Candace when Candace says that, "Are her arms up any longer?" And the voice says no, and the voice sounds to be like a very young voice. And the thing is that we don't have a comparison to see if it sounds like the grandmother.
She still got her arm up?
No.
Oh, that's what I was trying to catch, but... She still got her arm up?
No.
Oh, that's what I was trying to catch, but...
Now, if it's not her, if it is not the grandmother, then, the question is who? Who would it have been at that time, and why would they want to lie? Why would they want to say that it was the grandmother if it's not? And, I'm wondering what the investigators know about that. And again, another thing, the reason why I'm so curious about the storage bin in the back of the truck, we see that red storage bin and there's boxes inside of it. It is a little bit odd because those boxes there's, let's say, maybe 20 boxes, maybe more, depending how deep they go down, the size or shape of the boxes. But you can see that there are several boxes. They look very small, and they're all lined up together, one after the other. They look like cardboard boxes. And, it's a beige color, and it could be possibly maybe wood, pieces of wood, all the same size, just because of the color. But, what exactly is that? Because you have Summer sitting there, and right behind her, there's those boxes. And so is that something that they were going to deliver? Is that something that they were going to have to give out? Is that something which they would have to bring to the post office to get postage? Who knows? Who knows what it might be? Some people have commented about it. That is something which we can see. And the thing is that in this case, we really don't have many facts. So we have to look at every last thing which we can see with the photos. And that's pretty much all we have. As far as the timeline, they haven't released the 911 call. And that is, you've got to wonder why. And I'm thinking the reason why is because that will be used in the court. Is that they don't want to give that out because it will be evidence. And so for that reason, the public will not be hearing that, because it has been, 5 months. And so if they were going to release that, I would think that they already would have. So if that is evidence, the thing is that the bit that we do have from the scanner, as you all know, is that they say that the mother had gone for a walk. That could have been what was told. Of course, that is what was told to the 911 call person. And it could have been a lie, but it conflicts with the 2 minutes being with Grandis. It conflicts with that. It's just another thing that you have to kind of look at. So with these two, basically, we've seen them behaving in odd ways online, on different channels in the evening. They come on, and it's the behavior. Basically, it looks like they've been drinking. There's a lot of swearing. It's not a good look, but the thing is also that they had done a previous prank, so they are capable of misleading. And I guess it seemed like they were getting a kick out of it, out of that prank that they played where Candace was crying and sobbing, and she was saying that the whole idea that Dawn was missing. Now, if you go back, I recall that it was just a couple days before people started asking, oh, where's Dawn? Oh, Dawn disappeared. No one knew where Dawn was. And it's obvious now that that was some kind of a setup. So somebody was in on it, and it was for about a day. Everyone was looking around on YouTube saying, where's Dawn? Dawn's disappeared. Nobody's heard from Dawn. And the next thing you know, this whole call happens with Candace saying that they've got Donnie and that she's scared and that they're going to kill him and that the Mexican mafia has got him.
Hey. What's going on, Candace?
They just took Donnie away.
Who did?
The police.
They did? How come?
I don't know. They wouldn't tell me the reason why. But they're flying him out to Boston, Massachusetts.
They're flying him off to Boston?
Yeah.
Really? Oh my gosh, Candace. They didn't tell you why?
No.
So what'd they do? They just knocked on the door and came in and cuffed him and took him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Candace. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I wish they would have told you the reason why.
They didn't tell me anything. They just said that they had to take him. Because of the Jeannie said again.
Oh, really? Wow, Candace, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry, Candace. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, honey. I feel so bad for you. I wish I was there. I wish I could hold you, Candace.
He's never been me the kids is wrong. Ever. He's always been the greatest father.
Right? Oh my gosh, Candace, I'm so sorry. Gosh. So you don't think that they're just gonna take him for maybe a couple of days and release him?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? Well,
whatever Jenny and her friends did.
I don't know, Candace. I don't know. They might just take him maybe for a couple of hours. Maybe they're just taking him to question him or something. You know what I mean?
Why would I take him all the way to Boston?
What?
But why would I take him all the way to Boston? This is the question,
I don't know. Boston? I don't know. He don't have any ties in Boston that I know of, right?
Not
Not that I know of. The only places he's ever been is like
Federal. That's all I know. Federal.
Federal? Huh. Yeah, I don't know, Candace. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I know. I have nobody.
Now looking back, we can see that it was some sort of a setup. At first they started asking about Dawn. Dawn's disappeared. And it had to do with, I suppose, they said it had to do with tricking the sister-in-law. I mean, it was very childish. Basically, they didn't achieve anything doing that, but their own credibility has gone downhill because of it. So that's not really good, considering, that they should be quite serious. They should be looking for their daughter. And that prank pretty much destroyed even more, so that basically people aren't going to believe them when they do have something to say. And then with Candace starting to cry with that whole incident, that cornbread mafia, that could have just been another ploy. That could have been another act. She seems to be good with that, because we did hear with that prank that she's able to sound like she's crying. And so, maybe that was the same thing. Maybe this whole cornbread mafia thing is just, it was just an out. It was an out for her to accuse them of interrogating her. And that is the way that she was able to shut them off. And it worked, because they really didn't get much out of her. And I'm kind of surprised, because they are experts, but they didn't have her. I suppose you need to have the person more in a controlled environment. Let's say in a room where you can just discuss things, but it's kind of different when you're in front of an open audience. And so that was more, I suppose she would have her guard much more that way. And so anyways, so that's the basic, that is what's happening. And so now we are going towards winter, towards Christmas, and things are going to be covered with snow. And so I'm guessing that there won't be any more searching. There won't be a search, unless something is found very soon, some kind of trail of evidence, some kind of a clue. And they say that basically with evidence, it could be the smallest thing. It could be the tiniest little lead, which could open up, kind of like, I guess you could say, like Pandora's box. A little piece of evidence can lead you to a big discovery. So I hope that's what happens. But back to the whole diagnosis that Dr. Phil gave, that he said basically within the timeline, he says that it's impossible that the parents did this. He's saying that with this timeline, that these parents are there's no way, is what he's saying. He's saying that there was simply no time. But, we have gone over this. When you look at all of the channels, when you look at all of the work, all of the bit by bit analysis of every little thing, and it seems that there is time. It seems to me that there's quite a bit of time. And he's saying that, Dr. Phil is saying that with the search, you would think that by now that she would have been found. But the thing is that these perpetrators are able to move things to location number 1 for a short period of time, and then they will they will wait, and then they will go at another day and move something to another further location. There are times when they will have an accomplice, and it is very possible. Okay, so, and we know that because we've seen the cases where that is what happens. And they are acting right under the noses of law enforcement, right under the noses of investigators. And you say, oh, that's impossible. I mean, just look at Brian Laundrie. The investigators are there, and he is able to escape right under the noses of law enforcement. Look at the case of Letitia and Gannon, and she was going all over the place with a rental car, with different vehicles to the airport here and there. And obviously, it is possible. And I mean, the cases are one after another. Just look at the Morphew case. Suzanne Morphew disappeared, and nothing can be found. So obviously these things do happen, and it doesn't take as much time as you might imagine. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know if you guys have any hints, what your theories are, if your idea differs from mine, if you've heard any new information. I am very suspicious of the vehicles. I'm very suspicious. From the beginning, there's something that I don't know. I don't know what it is, but somebody made a comment, and they said that the coworker was driving the vehicle and that Dawn had taken the coworker's truck, and that there was some kind of a trick that was played with the vehicles. And I don't know exactly how they did it. I don't know if it's true, but there is something, I guess you could say something not kosher. There's something fishy that happened with those vehicles. And of course, that is speculation. That is just a hunch. That is just an idea. But let me know what you guys think. And hopefully there'll be a break in this case, because I mean, it's kind of just, I mean, it's insane when we see all of these cases, and it's like the investigators are at a loss. They're at a loss, and you would expect that they would be, that they would have an advantage, but it's like they don't have two sticks to rub together. They don't have much, it seems. I hope that they do. I hope that they have a file of information, and I hope that they will catch whoever did this to Summerwells. Whoever harmed Summer needs to be found, and this kind of thing has to stop, because it's just wrong. So anyways, guys, let's all pray for Summer. Let's all pray that there'll be a breakthrough soon, and that we can see justice for Summer. So I look forward to reading your comments, and thank you so much for watching. The landscape is beautiful, lush and green, trees and rolling hills, for the most part untouched by industry, forested nooks and crannies, coves covered for hundreds of years by lush green growth of trees, bush and grass, hidden drops, creeks and rivers, rolling on mile after mile. This is the Tennessee landscape. It's the home of Summer Wells, her mother, father, 3 older brothers, and her maternal grandmother, who lived on the hill in her own trailer. The home is secluded, situated high up top of a hill, looking down on a beautiful vast green landscape. Neighbors' homes are far off in the distance. For the most part, all you see is forest and rolling hills, not far from the magnificent Smoky Mountains. It's a different kind of life here, far from the city traffic, far from the city conveniences, not much to see and not much reason to be passing by their home on the hill. Rescuers have found no trace of Summer Wells. People wondered, are these parents truthful? Are these the unfortunate victims of an abduction? Dark and depraved, unthinkable rumors about Summer's disappearance have surrounded the case. Are these suspicions correct? Is there any hope left for Summer Moon Wells? How can she be found, and where? Is she far away? Did she travel far from her home? Or is she closer than we know? Who has the will to find her, to search every possibility? Over land and water, is there a clue that will lead the way, like a hidden bridge that will form a path for us to find Summer. Why do we care? Is it more than the shock and confusion and the mystery? Deep down, we need to care for Summer and for all the others that went missing. Surrounding this case are some concerning issues. Is it possible one of them was involved with criminals or active themselves? They came too close to that criminal element, and Summer was already being watched, intertwined in a web of less than wholesome activities. An innocent victim born into and surrounded by danger. Summer is seen in earlier photos with beautiful glowing blonde hair. She was an adorable child, only 5 years old. She had beautiful striking blue eyes and a darling shining smile on her face, but it was odd, and people took note right away that both Candace and Summer had their hair shaved down to nothing. Why? Is this a way to be less attractive? You can see in this photo, Summer's hair was actually shaved to her scalp. It seems a drastic cut. Was it a way of protecting Summer? Shaving her hair to make her look like a boy on purpose? To keep the wrong kind of attention away? This has been a point of discussion and speculation. Candace dresses with long sporty shorts over the knee, a sporty basketball-type t-shirt and boyish cap covering a short masculine haircut, kind of a teenage boy look from a distance. This is not a judgment, but a closer look at the bits that we can observe which stand out. Was there a reason to remove Summer's beautiful hair so drastically? Was the objective for her to look like a boy? Was it too much trouble to care for her hair every day? To keep it clean and brush out the knots? This whole idea basically puts responsibility onto either one of the parents. In this example, it would be the mother who was getting too close or involved with the wrong kinds of friends or dealing with shady, unlawful characters, putting Summer in danger for the simple reason of being with her mother. Another twist on this scenario would be an arranged trade, which of course is illegal and sickening to think of. Prearranged and agreed to by the parties, a request to have her as a trade for a debt, either money debt or the kind of debt that is more of a favor or a promise, a plan for some reason, either willingly or by force, for example, blackmail. This suggests a scenario where one or both of the parents are and were aware of the plan to trade Summer or have her go to another person or family for some reason which of course would be unlawful. Some people have thought of the idea that maybe the grandmother arranged to have Summer go elsewhere to protect her granddaughter from the life she had with her parents. That could have been done within the law. It's not unheard of for a grandchild to live with their grandparents and to be raised with them. Sometimes it's for the best, but that could have been done and discussed, decided upon, with the parents' agreement, knowing it would be in the child's best interest. It could be done legally. It's a possibility which does happen in many families, but it could be the parents wouldn't like that idea, and that may have nothing to do with this case. If it is the case that this was arranged by the parents, then why did they call 911 within hours of Summer disappearing? No one would have known that Summer was gone. The parents could have waited till the next day to bring it to the attention of the authorities. They could have gone to sleep that night of Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Then, the next morning, they could have woken up and reported it. Or not. It depends on CPS. Where exactly was CPS? There has been talk of many visits they made to the home. Supposedly, CPS was scheduled to visit that day, but there is no mention or verification of them actually being there. If so, when? Did CPS show up at their house earlier that day while Candace was away? This would go with the reaction Candace had on the Dr. Phil show. She reacted on the national hour-long television program when the cornbread mafia was mentioned. It was explained by the expert that this is a group of organized criminals operating within the vicinity of their Tennessee home. Candace became upset at that point and she removed her microphone, then left the stage. Dr. Phil later questioned her about it. Could there be more to this bit? Could it be that Dawn is also in fear for this reason? Fear of retaliation from a criminal group that he knows he can't and he won't dare reveal, knowing he himself may have more to hide along those lines, apart from possible threats that keep the truth hidden along with Summer. Why the conflicting reports of whether or not the boys went to work with their father, Donald Wells? Why did Allison's son, H, say he overheard Candace and Dawn talking about some odd guy watching the kids up at the house? Was it true? And did it happen on June 15th? Or was it a conversation about a previous incident? Why was Summer dressed in a special outfit? Her first day of school clothing, her father said. Wouldn't those clothes be saved for the first day of school? It was only June 15th. School hadn't started yet for young Summer Wells. It was going to be her first time going to school, a brand new experience for the 5-year-old Summer Wells. The clothing has brought more speculation. Baking hot temperatures that day, as the mother said. They went for a swim for that reason, to cool off at the horse pond instead of waiting for a prescription in the baking hot car. Why then dress Summer in long pants and a long-sleeve jacket? And her first day of school clothes. Or did they just tell her those were special clothes and they wanted her to have them on for some pre-arranged reason? If the whole thing is a lie, why say she stepped away for only 2 minutes? Why not say she was busy with her mother and hadn't checked on Summer for a while longer, that she was doing laundry, and a half an hour or so later she noticed Summer was missing? Again, why not wait and call 911 the following day? Is the 2 to 3 minutes specified to indicate an attentive mother? It makes the abductor theory much more difficult to play out in reality, specifically within that 2-minute time frame and setting. To disappear without a sound during the day, unseen, with only 2 to 3 minutes time seems unlikely. Vanished without a trail, not a shred of clothing, no evidence, no struggle, no sound, no sighting, nothing, and only 2 to 3 minutes. Hard to believe this could happen with 2 adults and Summer's 3 brothers all there awake within a very small space. How could it be that nothing was heard? When Candace's friend Allison gave her side of the story, there were many contradictions to that which Candace told. Allison said that Candace was meeting guys and inviting them to the house, strangers. We know while Dawn was away, Candace had Jose staying and sleeping at Ben Hill Road. After having a look at the home, the obvious question is, where? Where did Jose sleep? The boys share a small space, just off to the left and open to the front door entrance. Summer and Candace have a small open space down in a lower below ground level. Dawn said Summer slept alongside him in their bed every night since she was born. Where would Candace have Jose sleep? Was she in the habit of allowing strangers to sleep so close to those young children? This is what we know. But what has been left out? What is there that is too bad to tell? What is the part they won't tell? There's always the part that remains secret. I recall hearing that Jose had friends as well. There was mention of a small group that came from New York. Did they all come around and see Summer and the boys at Ben Hill Road? That's just an example. The point is, if Candace was casually allowing people to come around and party, drinking, becoming intoxicated, etc., that put those kids into potential danger. Are there other unmentioned characters that went to visit the home, maybe stayed over? Is this a possible clue to the danger that caused Summer to disappear? There has been a lot of talk on various channels that this looks like it might have been quasi-prearranged. That would account for the seemingly detached reactions, the lack of emotion for the most part. But at this point, the facts have not come out, and we don't know what the truth is. We really don't know at this point what the facts are. We have a ton of information, rumors, gossip, stories of things that went on. There were no cameras there to catch the perpetrators. Remember the case of 4-year-old Cash Gernon? Who would have believed it without the camera footage to show us? The guy came right in. No one heard him, no dogs barked, and he came back for a second go in the morning, in daylight. For a second time, and again, no one heard him, but the cameras saw, and we looked on in shock and disbelief at what we were seeing. Cash's twin brother was seen on the footage as well, but he was luckily left unharmed. But he awoke to see that his twin brother, Cash, was nowhere to be found. Could this be a case like that one? None of the adults in that home woke up. The camera recording showed the facts. One last thing I've been wondering about for a while now. When you look at the photo of Summer asleep in the back seat of her grandmother's Silverado, behind Summer in the window, or behind the window, it looks to me there is a storage bin there. Inside that bin, it looks like there are several boxes, all the same shape and size, with a beige color, like cardboard possibly. The lid is not on the storage bin because those boxes come up over the top of the bin. I'm wondering what exactly is in the bin. Are those individual boxes? And if so, what is in those boxes? Candace or the grandmother should know, but have the police found out? Do the investigators know what was in that bin? It might just be important. Just one piece of the puzzle which we do see in a case that has very little confirmed as fact and, as they say, no evidence of an abduction at this point. Let me know what you make of these questions. I look forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to have you back again for the next video. Prayers to heaven for Summer Wells, wherever she is. May the moon, stars, and sun light her way to safety. I hope she didn't suffer. I hope she will be protected from evil and harm, and that she'll be safe and happy. Remember, we all have to be a part of the safe and happy communities we want and hope for, and we should all make those efforts every day to bring some happiness, some good to our world. Just imagine the potential we have as individuals, and then, together, with a combined goal of safe and happy, healthy communities. Choose the thoughts and actions that create a better day and a happier future. Otherwise, do no harm. Thank you for watching and hope to see you soon.
we went back out and then we brought the torch in and put them down. And then Mom, she went took her stuff to her house and put her stuff away.
Okay.
And of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away. And then we were just doing normal stuff around the house like we normally do. And I come out, Mom was sitting there at the time. I come out and I'm standing here. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you staring at? She's like, these plants, I gotta get them transplanted. I was like, well, Summer will help us, so I went back in. By that time, she was sitting on the floor playing with her toys.
Right here?
No, in the kitchen where we were just at.
Okay.
She was actually sitting on the floor playing with her toys at that time. I said, Summer, you want to help plant flowers? And she jumped up, left her toys a mess. We transplanted these cactuses from the little pots that they were in. We transplanted these ones here into this bigger pot and that one into that bigger pot. And then she took the rocks that we've gotten from different gem mines when we went up to Gatlinburg and stuff.
Okay.
And she's the one that spreaded all the rocks around in here. And then she put her puppies in here. She wanted Chase in there, you know.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. Also thank you to all of the new viewers. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and please like the video as well and share if you can. I keep going back to the timeline for the Summerwells case, and specifically I'm thinking more and more about the thing that we do know. At this point we know that the first 911 call was made at 6:26 p.m. We know that Donald Wells said that he was at work in Jonesboro when he made the call, and we know that he told Candace to hang up and call 911 and that she was at home at that time. She was at Ben Hill Road. So now either way, one of the two of them made the first call. Now let's say, for example, if it was Don, he said that he made the 911 call, and after that he quickly grabbed whatever he could of his tools and he threw them into his vehicle and then he left.
Well, they say, it's really strange because I thought it was 5:30, but the 911 call says 6:30, 6:26 is when the first call come in. And that could well be. Sometimes I work till sunset, A lot of times I have been here lately, but I thought it was 5:30.
So in that case, that means that at 6:26 he would do that, and then after that, let's say a couple minutes later, let's say 5 minutes, he would then take the time to get his tools and then he would leave work. So did someone see him at work at 6:26? Did anyone see him leave? And so now if it took him, for example, let's say it took him 35 minutes to get home. I'm guessing that it wouldn't be quicker than that, but he said that it took him about 30 minutes, and he says maybe even faster. Now, I took a look at the map on Google, and there's a couple of different routes from Jonesboro, and I'm not sure exactly where he was working in Jonesboro, but it says that he could be there as quickly as 35 minutes. Okay? There's another route that's about 45 minutes, but once again, I don't know which part of Jonesboro he was in, whether he was further away. But anyway, so now back to this whole thing. So if the call happened at 6:26, then he couldn't have been home any sooner than, for example, 7 or maybe 7:15. Now, if that is the case, then he says that there was no one there. He says he was the first one there to arrive. And no one else was there. He beat everyone to Ben Hill Road. He made it there first. So, okay, 7 o'clock, maybe 7:15. So we're supposed to understand that, or if this is true, that there is no one there, and he's the first one there. So when did this whole thing happen? Because what I understood was that there was a search team there, that everyone came and they were all searching. Now, I recall that one of the news people had said that it happened at 7. Okay, but then we found out that no, it was earlier. Don himself had some kind of a confusion. He thought that it was about 5:30, but then he realizes that, in fact, he didn't make the call until 6:26.
Well, sir, I was at work, and my wife called me, and I said, hang up for me and call 911 right now. And I was at work, and I called 911, threw all my tools that I could in the vehicle, and from Jonesboro, I made it out here before anybody.
That is when the 911 call, the first call, that is when the first 911 call is reported or recorded. And of course they have the exact time. Now, then there's Candace. So Dawn is the one that tells her to hang up and call 911. And at that time, she is at home. And her side of the story is that she calls 911, and whatever she tells them, we don't get to hear that. We haven't heard the actual, their voices. We haven't heard Candace or Dawn making those calls. But so her call is either 6:26 or after, or thereabout, sometime close to that. And so she says that she does that, but then she doesn't want to wait around. So she leaves in the vehicle. She says that she throws her phone into Dawn's vehicle, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that she uses her mother's phone. She uses Grandma Candace's phone, which has the AT&T service, to make the 911 call. And then she leaves because she doesn't want to just stand around. She leaves, driving around looking for Summer. And she says that she doesn't see anyone. She didn't see any, let's say, for example, an offender. She doesn't see anyone taking off. She doesn't see anyone suspicious. Okay, so now we have the boys, I suppose, are still there. Grandma is still there in this scenario. And Candace and Dawn are not, at this point, at Ben Hill Road. But now, the thing is that, from what I know, when that 911 call is made, especially in a case like this, that they would arrive very quickly. I think it's 6 or 7 minutes. But I think we have to make some allowances because this is a very rural location. It could be quite far away from where the police are, whether they're driving around or where exactly they're stationed at that time. So let's say they arrive there maybe 15 minutes later. So that would be from 6:26, 10 minutes would be 6:36, and then add another 5 minutes, that's 6:41. So let's say 6:45, okay? So, but the thing is, we don't know. We don't know when they arrived. But I'm just not understanding, how is it that Don was there first? How could it be that he got there before the police? So that is the thing I'm wondering. So when did the police get there? They know when they got there. If they got there at, let's say, 6:45, at 6:50, at 6:55, how can it be that Dawn was there first? This is the part that really, I think we really need to know, and hopefully they will release this information, but it just doesn't fit in. Now, as far as what we do know from the story that Candace told, we have to go back to that thing where she says it was 2 minutes. So 2 minutes after she helped her mother with her knee. I suppose maybe she put a band-aid on or something on her mother's knee. And it was 2 minutes after that Summer went missing. So this is not, this is not at 6:30 in the evening, because basically they got home after 3. And the way that Candace is telling the story, there wasn't much that happened before her mother needed help with her knee. Now, I keep going back to that 911 call. So Don said at first that he thought that it was 5:30, that he was at work, and that he thought that's when it happened. But later he had to come to the realization, or he had to admit the fact that it was 6:26 when that call was made. So was he actually, is it true? Is it true that he was at work at 6:26? The thing that I keep thinking about is, now, that whole story, the whole report, the police scanner said that the mother had gone for a walk.
Being around 110 Ben Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in, advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now. Being around 110 Ben Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in, advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
So that might just be, maybe it was just kind of an excuse. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Could be that maybe the mom, maybe Candace, had maybe fallen asleep and something happened. Maybe Candace was, doing something which she wasn't aware. She didn't have the awareness of her daughter. She wasn't watching Summer. She was predisposed with something else, for example. Okay? So I don't want to accuse her of what exactly it was, but for some reason, Candace, the mom, wasn't aware of what was going on with Summer. Okay, so basically, the thing is that I'm thinking is that Candace will come to at some point. She will be awake, and she will then realize that her daughter is missing. And that is when she becomes frantic, and she then calls 911. But she doesn't realize what's really happened. She doesn't know who took Summer, possibly. It could be true that she had planted the flowers, maybe not. But it's possible that maybe Candace wasn't aware of what happened. That is one possibility. So it was kind of something that Don had said that I took note of. He said that Candace never does anything during the day. She doesn't drink when she's going to be driving, and she doesn't smoke when she's going to be driving. She is more likely that she will do that in the evening, and then she's out for the night. But she never does that during the day. That was one of the specific things that Donald Wells said. But I'm thinking, what if this is not true? What if she has more of a relaxed habit? Because they're up there, they're up north there, and they're living more of a relaxed lifestyle as far as having a timetable. And so possibly after she arrived home, she kind of had whatever. Maybe she had one of those twisted teas, or maybe another alcoholic beverage, and maybe something else, because we heard that she'd had something in her system, and Don himself kind of threw her under the bus, saying that she did have, that the police said that she came back, that she did have something in her system. So what if she had done that early on in the day, and she had lost awareness of time, of Summer and of what was going on. So this kind of leaves the door open for many things to happen. And this does make Candace out to be negligent. So, this would make her look bad in that way, that she wasn't really aware, that she wasn't supervising Summer. And she does try in her story to really show herself as watching Candace very closely. And everyone has kind of remarked on the part where she says she walked her to the door and she watched her go in, and she's trying to really show how careful that she was. And maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. But from the habits that we know that they have, then it's possible that maybe she'd fallen asleep. Maybe she'd had a drink, maybe she'd fallen asleep, and she doesn't know what happened. That is one possibility. Then we have Donald. Supposedly he was in Jonesboro working, but he doesn't remember what time either. And he says that he thought it was 5:30, and then he realizes that no, the call was at 6:26. And so that puts him at home very late, after 7. The earliest, I would say maybe 10 after 7. So do any of you know when exactly did the search start at Ben Hill Road? When did they shut down or close off the street? When did the police arrive? That is a very important piece of information, because it's going to help to show the storyline or the timeline as far as where everyone is at what time. So if Don arrived home at about 5:30, that changes everything, because that would mean that he would first be at home and then the 911 calls would happen. And that makes everything quite a bit different. So another thing which you have to admit is really strange is the part about Summer in the car, that she was cold, because specifically they say how hot it was that day. And that is the reason why they went over to Warriors Park for a swim. They say, so we were like, well, instead of sitting here in the car where it's hot, it was baking hot, we'll just go to Warriors and let Summer swim for a little while. Like I said, we weren't even planning on going swimming or fishing or anything, Candace said. So they weren't planning on going. I don't know. It's just, what were they planning though? This is the thing that doesn't make sense. So they decide to go because it's hot. So then why was Summer wearing all of those clothing? Why was she wearing long pants? She had a shirt and a jacket. Why would she be so cold if that was such a hot day? And if you check on Google, it says on June 15th in Rogersville, Tennessee specifically, and that day was a Tuesday, it says that that day it was 26 degrees. 26 degrees. And the previous day, on the Monday, it was 31 degrees. Now, it was a warm day. So why is it that she was dressed? They're complaining about the heat in the car, and they decide that they're going to go swimming because of that heat. They say it was baking hot. Okay, I'm reading an article here from Rogersville.com article. It's the Rogersville Review, and specifically they said that it was baking hot. Okay, so why is it that Summer is cold? They said that was her personality, that she was always cold. So then why, if she's always cold, then why put her in the water? Why get her to go swimming? So that doesn't really make sense, but supposedly she did go swimming, and they have that video of her, and H is there with her. When Summer stands up in the water, you can see that it's about waist deep. That's what it looks like in the video, But Candace said that Summer did not go under. She says that it didn't happen. Candace says that the boy lied on everything that happened. That's what she said. She said that there was no rocks there. She didn't slide on the rocks and fall into the water. And she wasn't under the water for 20 seconds like he said. That was a bunch of lies that he made up. So I keep trying to figure out, what reason would H have for lying? Why would he make up these stories to lie? Why even, for example, why would his mother tell him to, for example, make up those stories? Why would they want to say that this happened to Summer if it's not true? So another thing, so now if she has the windows closed and they are in the car and it gets hot, was Summer left in the car in a hot car, and maybe H left her in there for a little while? Maybe she, fell asleep in the car, and at that time when it happened, there was no one in there. For example, let's say Candace went in to get the groceries, and Summer was in the vehicle with H, and she was looking at the phone and just, browsing and looking at whatever, and H decides that he's going to get out of the vehicle just for a little while to maybe have a smoke or something, and he leaves Summer in there with all of the windows shut, and it's very hot, and maybe she falls asleep at that point. Then everyone gets back into the vehicle, they have the groceries, and Summer is there looking like she's asleep, and H gets back in, and they then drop H off at home, and that is when Allison comes out and she sees Summer sleeping, and she wants to wake her up, but she never does, and she regrets that. But maybe Summer is not in fact sleeping. It's that she's passed out because she has been left in a hot vehicle. And the complaining about saying that she's always cold, they closed the windows. That was their mistake because it was a very hot day. And maybe it was too hot. Maybe they shouldn't have closed the windows. That's another possibility. So by the time they get home, they might realize that, she in fact wasn't sleeping, and they can't wake her up anymore. They realize they can't wake her up. She's not waking up. So they get home, and grandmother sees this, and this is the accident scenario. So then Candace at this point would call Dawn, and they would have to figure out what to do. So that is another possibility because it was a hot day. Now another thing, you might have noticed, and people have been talking about this, now with those flowers that were planted with the gravel, the white gravel, you would see that there's like not only the cactus or the succulent plants, whatever those are there, there's also like some weeds that are there. And that seemed odd because it was like, okay, so if you guys planted these flowers, you did this all nice here, and you put the gravel, and all of a sudden a weed has popped up, why would there be a weed there? And the gravel is, around the weed as well. So I don't know if those are weeds, but like I said, even another channel, I can't remember right now which one it was, but yeah, another channel had even noticed that the weeds are there. So why are there weeds? These things might have been done days before, and they are now saying that the flowers were planted then. but maybe not. So now back to the whole thing of the report that the mother had gone for a walk. So maybe that is true. Maybe she did go for a walk. Maybe she went to meet someone. And in that case, she wasn't watching Summer. Maybe grandmother was tired and she just wanted to lay down. She wanted to get off her knee and relax a little bit. That makes sense. And she had asked Summer to go in the house. In that case, Summer was still alive. And in which, then what I'm saying is that basically Candace wasn't there. So Candace doesn't know, in this scenario again, that I'm thinking of now, Candace doesn't know what happened. So possibly Candace does think that this is an abduction, or that she just doesn't know for sure what happened. So there's another big question. We have grandmother, she split the scene. She's gone. We have Donald and we have Candace. These are the last two standing. Okay? All the boys are gone. Summer was the first one. She disappeared. So now, are these two on the same page? Is Candace on the same page or on the same team as Donald? Or does she suspect him? Or does Dawn suspect Candace? Now, from what I can understand, it looks like because Dawn has been doing so much talking, and it doesn't seem like he suspects Candace, and he has supported her. As far as being suspicious of her, he hasn't said anything that would hint towards that. But Candace, on the other hand, she is more, it seems like she's more in the dark. She doesn't have the details. The whole story of the red car comes up. She doesn't know anything about that. That is also Dawn who knows about that. Then there's the situation with the door that Candace doesn't know if it was locked, but Donald confirms that it was locked. So, they are not, they have some facts which are different. And if Don wasn't there, why is he the one that is giving the information? How can he be, he's not the one who is the expert on what happened. He wasn't there. So my guess is that basically the grandmother, she could have maybe been in her camper. Maybe she didn't see exactly what was going on, but we really don't know. We can't really accuse anyone. We can't go around making accusations. But at the same time, we kind of have to look at the timeline and the scenario and the story that they've given and try to figure out, what is really going on here. Another thing that they specify is that she did the rocks herself. She went into Grandma's after we were done. She asked Grandma for a piece of candy. Grandma gave her a piece of candy. She told me she wanted to go back over with her brothers. So I literally walked her halfway between the camper and the house. That is what Candace said. So Grandma she asked Grandma for a piece of candy. That is a specific detail, and the story, they do have some specifics, but then it makes you wonder, because unfortunately, I heard of the substances which Candace had in her system. That has been reported. And it makes me wonder if maybe Summer by mistake got a hold of something like a hard candy, but it wasn't a candy. And by mistake, she ingested that thing, and that is the accident. That could be what happened. But They referred to a hard piece of candy. She gave her a piece of candy. So that is another thing which is kind of odd. When Candace walks Summer to the door, she says, I watched her go to the door. I could see her brothers at the kitchen table when she went in. I walked over and yelled at the boys. I said, watch Summer. I'll be right back. I've got to fix Mom's knee brace. I was standing right there at the camper. I was over there fixing it. Literally, you can see my mom's house. You can see my house from the camper door. She did not walk back out that front door. So you can see the house from her mom's camper. Candace estimated it took maybe 2 to 5 minutes to fix her mom's brace. So basically, they're saying that this happened, in 2 minutes. She disappeared in 2 minutes. How can it happen that, she would have gone, that means that Summer would have went straight downstairs and this whole thing happened immediately. And within 2 minutes, there was no sign of any person. There was no sound. She was there. She could see the house. And it's like they're trying to give us an impossible scenario. So she's trying to make herself out to be perfect, that she only let 2 minutes go by without seeing Summer. At the same time, it's like it would have to be, for example, a magician that would be able to make Summer vanish in like 2 minutes. She says, then when I got done, I came back in. I asked the boys, where's your sister? And they said, she went downstairs to play with her toys, Mom. I said, okay. And I went and I hollered down the steps. I always holler for them down there. And she didn't holler back. I said, are you sure she's down there? They said, yeah, she just went down there. Now, guys, there's 3 boys that know the truth. Those 3 boys know if Summer went down there. The question is, was someone else down there? And what time was it? If they arrived back home after 3, let's say they arrived at 3 or at 3:15, and they put away the groceries, they planted the flowers, she helped her mom with the knee brace. Let's say that is maybe 4 o'clock, maybe 4:15. Who else could have been down there? Was there another family member who was down there, who was outside of the door there, who pulled up without Candace realizing? Had Candace had something to drink or something else, and that she is not aware of the truth of what's going on?
I don't recall if this was locked or not. I don't recall that.
Okay.
But I know, it's hard on me. But I know I did come out here and I said, Summer, because sometimes she'll sit right here and just sit here and play just for,
And so why did they wait until 6:26 to make the 911 call? Because I can't see it being that late, that that much time would have gone by. That's at least 2 hours or more, 2.5 hours at least. And so she says, so I went down there and I searched, I looked everywhere. Then I went through the house and I kept calling for her, yelling for her, everything. I came out here outside yelling for her, everything else, and she was nowhere. She was nowhere. So I called Dawn because I was freaking out. So she says she was yelling for her everything else, and she was nowhere. All right, so I went down there and I searched. I looked everywhere. Then I went through the house. I kept calling for her, yelling for her. Don, Summer's father, was installing drywall at a job site in Jonesboro. I said, I can't find Summer. Get home now, Candace recalled. He was like, call 911. So I dropped my phone because I had to run over and get Mom's phone and dial 911 because her AT&T phone is the only one that works out here to call 911. So I called them and I told them what's going on. Before the cops even came out, I went down and told my neighbors, Summer is missing. Will you help me look, just in case she didn't wander off? But I knew in the back of my mind, she's never wandered off. She never went nowhere without me. She'll ask me to do something before she even goes and does it. And she's scared to go in the woods herself because we've told her time and time again, because of the bears and snakes, Candace said. So, before the cops came out, she told her neighbors that Summer's missing. So they would have been looking before the cops. But then Don said that he got there before anyone. So I'm not sure if that doesn't make sense. Let me know what you guys think so far. If you've noticed anything odd. I sent the older boys down through the creek. If they've got a walkie-talkie and their buck knife, they can go down through there. I sent all them searching, and I went in my mom's truck, and I went all the way down by the church, then went all the way down the other way, and I didn't see nobody, even out and about, Candace said. So that's pretty fast, because if someone was in a vehicle, what she's saying is that she had gone and quite quickly and told her neighbors, and she went out in her own vehicle and she didn't see anyone. Then I went all the way back in the holler as far as the truck can go, and I didn't see nothing back in there either. When I was coming back up of the holler, the cops were coming up in my driveway, so I just followed them up here. I don't recall if Don was here before the police got here or if he was here at the same time they showed up. Okay, that is strange. I don't recall if Don was here before the police got here. How could she not recall? Or if he was here at the same time they showed up. Well, he said that he was there before them. So, we searched everywhere we could possibly search. They were out here for 3 or 4 days straight, searching 5,000 square acres. They searched all this mountain terrain all the way down through here. They busted into my shed down there and destroyed it, she said. What really gets me is when they were searching for her, why didn't they make the neighbors let them go in their sheds and buildings and stuff? Why didn't they make them unlock it? Some people were like, no, you can't search my property. Why would you do that? There's a missing kid. Why would you not let them search? It just don't make no sense, said Candace. And we grew frustrated at times with the searchers. Well, that is kind of hard to believe. What do you guys make of that? Because, didn't they say that they had to actually search every one of those buildings, and that they were very dangerous, and that some of them had on the inside the floor was broken and rotted out and stuff? And so I heard that they were searching, but she's saying that no, that they were locked, and that is one of the complaints that she has. Then she says, they looked in every vehicle I had, underneath every vehicle I had. They opened that tote right there, and all it's got in it is a bunch of crafts and stuff. You couldn't even fit nobody in that if you wanted to. They opened that like 7 times. They even went so small to look into my mom's sewer tank of her camper. That hole's like an inch diameter circle. Candace gestured with her thumb and index finger. How did you get that 4-foot baby in that hole? She said. Candace said she thought the police canines would have had better success if she had been notified to corral the family's 8 dogs. Okay, so she has quite a few complaints about the search. She says they just done some stupid underhand stuff. When they brought the cadaver dogs up, why didn't they warn me ahead of time to find a place for these dogs to go? They just brought them up. Oh, you got dogs? You guys already knew I had dogs. That didn't pan out because you've got these 8 adult dogs waiting to smell all these new dogs you just brought up on my property. So that's going to mess up the cadaver dogs because it's not going to know which way to go, Candace said. I think she's wrong, you guys. So what do you think about this? So she's saying that because of her dogs, the cadaver dogs won't know which way to go. But from what I know, that the cadaver dogs are trained, they will ignore the scent of the dogs. And they're going to be looking for, the scent of summer. Or they will be searching for the scent of a cadaver, for example. So that, I'm not sure. Maybe she's worried about that, but I think that she's wrong. I'm not sure. Let me know what you guys think about that. Okay, then it says, Summer's mother also expressed frustration with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. TBI kept questioning me. They asked me the same thing, wanting me to run through my whole timeline of my day. They did that like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, you guys still don't get it. If I was going to lie, I would have to think about it. It just comes out. I don't have to sit here and think about what I did. I know what I did. I just spit it out to you 20,000 times, Candace said. A liar has to think up something. I passed my polygraph test, and everybody is like, oh, you failed. No, I didn't fail. The first time I did it, they couldn't really do it with me because they threw me in the back of the squad car like I did something wrong and hauled me up there. I was already distressed over Summer being missing, and then they did that to me. So that just made more fuel to the fire and made me more upset. So by the time I got there, I was crying and shaking and just couldn't do it, Candace said. Okay, so that part there, we know now that basically they couldn't give her the test because she had actually some kind of substance in her system. And I don't know if she had been drinking at that point. Then it goes on to say, so they told me they'll give me a few days to calm down and get some sleep and stay off your phone because that's the worst thing you can do is be on your phone. And so I did that. And then I passed. It's not like I failed anything. People are like, oh, she failed. No, I didn't fail. Now here it says, the only people that had to do it were me, Donnie, and Mom. All 3 of us passed. They took the boys to a different place, someplace over by Greenville somewhere. A child advocate or something like that talked to the boys. The boys pretty much told them exactly what I told them. And I didn't even talk to the boys, Candace said. Okay, so she's saying that she didn't even talk to them, but we won't ever know that because there was some hours in between before anyone arrived, before that 911 call. And then it says all the boys had to recall was Summer coming in the house and going downstairs. Now the thing is that maybe it's true that she went downstairs. So the boys will then say, yes, it's true. We saw Summer go downstairs. And that could be the last true thing, that she went down there, and that Candace doesn't know anything after that she doesn't know what happened, and that there's some family member that, that took over after that point. And that now Candace basically doesn't know. She might have suspicions of what happened, and we have suspicions of what happened, but that could be another possibility. She then says that because they got so hooked on watching YouTube, they watched Minecraft videos on YouTube. I'm like, don't you guys ever get bored with that, Candace said. So it could be that they weren't aware of what happened. The three of them are inside. They're having a lot of fun watching their Minecraft videos. They're absorbed in whatever was going on. And they don't know. They might not know what really happened. Then she says here, I tried to get them to go check out this guy who was trying to camp out here and try to take over my neighbor's property. They were like, oh yeah, we checked him out. It's like they don't even really care if they find her or not. That's what it seems to be, because we're poor, I guess. I guess if we had lots of money, they'd do better work, I guess. That's the way it looks like. She says, I don't know, for some reason TBI don't believe that she was abducted, Candace said. That's what don't make sense to me, because she's not here. She don't just disappear, I mean. I've seen movies where people just start vanishing off Earth, but, they're so fake. But somebody had to have taken her. That's the only conclusion I could come to. As far as the dogs, Candace says, if they were good watchdogs, she says, hell no. They're lazy. Anybody that came up here that could have took her could have fed the dogs down there, the lower part of the yard. These dogs are so friendly and love everybody. They don't know strangers. Okay, so I guess that means nobody's a stranger for them. And then it says here, indeed, contrary to expectations, the dogs greeted this reporter like a known friend and hardly barked during the hour plus on the property. Then at the end here it says, I don't believe anyone anymore. I've gotten to the point where I can't trust nobody, because everybody I talk to either twists my words around or they do something. They put out more lies, and it's making it worse and harder on TBI to even find her, Candace said, adding that the stress is affecting her 3 sons as well. Well, I'm sure it is. They're the ones that are suffering through this whole kind of like a circus or roller coaster, whatever. Then this goes on to say here, I won't let these boys outside if I'm not out here. I try to take them out of here so they can get their mind off it. In the summer, that's all that I do with the kids because it's summertime. They're not at school. So here's a chance, when they're not at school, they get to enjoy themselves. When we go, I smile for the kids, but I'm not having no fun. I'll get in the water with them, but that don't mean I'm having fun, Candace said, of the constant knowledge that Summer is missing. If you look at the pictures, she was always smiling. They're always happy kids. I mean, they'll get into fights because that's what brothers do, but other than that, they're always happy no matter what they're doing. Wyatt tells me, Mom, I feel like if I would have went downstairs and played with Summer when she asked, she'd still be here. I said, you can't blame yourself, son. I said, nobody knows what the next day is going to hold. So this one brother is saying that she asked for him to go down. He says, if I would have went downstairs and played with Summer when she asked, she'd still be here. So, I mean, that's another point. So if that is true, that she asked one of the brothers to go downstairs, you know, if that is true, then she did make it down there. So that's another thing. Then it says here, they smiled to put on a good show, but other than that, I know they're really upset. They ask me every day, is Summer coming home today? I can't answer that. I don't know. I find myself sitting out here until midnight or 1 o'clock at night, just hoping maybe that whoever took her or whatever happened, she'll come wandering back up the driveway to us, Candace said. So guys, let me know what you think about that. I know that things have gotten really crazy with this whole phone call, this hoax thing that happened. And it just makes them look very, suspicious. It makes them look very immature. I mean, how could two worried parents, that are dealing with a situation like this, how could they do a hoax? That phone call that she's pretending that all this stuff is going on with Dawn. And it was quite convincing, but I think she overdid it. At the same time, she was possibly, I heard that they'd both been drinking. That was one of the reports. And, it does sound like that, because she's not talking very clearly. But, how could they be doing that kind of prank at a time like this? So that makes them look, people will, instead of focusing on this horrible situation of a missing 5-year-old of Summer, it's now more looking at the circus, the sideshow, which is going on. And as far as like a whole possible abduction thing, there's no mention of that. There is no, law enforcement has not alerted the community to be on the lookout, and that whole possibility, that scenario is not being highlighted at all. And instead, it's becoming more and more, the Candace and Dawn show. It's becoming more about Dawn's past, and I guess that people are trying to kind of associate that and all of Dawn's troubles, that is linked to the reason why Summer is no longer around. That is, that's all that we can kind of, I guess you have to put 2 and 2 together, but if only law enforcement would come out and, do another conference, talk about what they know, and maybe give out some more information, some factual timeline, maybe even just what time did they show up there, whatever, even though of course, they don't have to tell us anything, but it's just getting to be now. It's to the point where it's just like a freak show, So I know that supposedly one of the stories is that they had done that Dawn and Candace, one of them had come up with this idea that Dawn had been either arrested or that the cartel was after him, and they came up with this supposedly because they wanted to get maybe sympathy from the sister-in-law, from Mary, and from the other one, because they were going to have that Dawn will be charged, and maybe they were trying to get some sympathy from them. Maybe that was the whole reason that they were doing this. I don't think that it was very bright. I don't see how that would have worked, so I don't quite understand the logic behind it, the reasoning. How did they figure that out? because it just doesn't make sense. Is that going to stop the in-laws from pressing charges? Pulling a prank like this, is that going to make them change their mind? I doubt that. I think it's been like 40 years that the one sister has been suffering with this issue, with this, maybe not a secret, but with that bit of information that she's held on to about what happened. And now she is basically, they're going to press charges. And so I don't see how they came up with this scheme, with this hoax. If that is the way that their minds work, if that is the way that logic, the way that they put, let's say, 2 and 2 together to come up with an idea, then, it's not very bright. I don't quite, maybe you guys can see it as a plan or as an idea, or they had a bright idea, but it looks pretty crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. And now, everyone is looking at them, they just don't have any more credibility. So maybe they might come out and try and clear the air, maybe do an interview with someone and explain, maybe an apology. I don't know. But anyway, so let me know what you guys think about that. For me, it's the issue of the 911 call, the time of that call, which is 6:26, and the time when Don arrives. He says that he was there very quickly, but I think it's at least 30 minutes. So, he would be there by about 7. And how can it be that there was no one there, that he was the first one? So I just think that that's very important to find out about that part there. And Candace herself says that she doesn't know if he was there, and that's kind of odd as well. So anyways, so let me know what you guys think about it. I look forward to reading all of your guys' ideas, and hopefully there will be some news very soon. So please share your thoughts in the comment section. Please subscribe, like the video, and share if you can. Thank you so much, and bye for now.